Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with me. So today is Thanksgiving, and I woke up this morning and said to myself, "Today's the day. Today's the day." My name is Jessica Colleen Sullivan. I was born December 10th, 1991. Um, let's see. I was born in St. Joseph, Missouri. I was told that as a baby I had colic, but obviously I can't remember that. I recently looked up what it means spiritually to have colic, and it made sense. Um, I cannot recall if I've ever been told stories about myself as a baby or a child. If I was told, I can't really remember. I grew up with my mom and my dad. I had an older sister and older brother. When I was 8 and 19, I was gifted a baby sister. Um, so, my mom once told me that after I was born, she didn't really feel a connection with me, like that motherly feeling, until I was about a year old. She said she was getting me in my party dress for my first birthday, and she had me sitting up on top of the dresser, and she was just looking at me in my dress, and all of a sudden it clicked, and she said to herself, "Oh my God, this is my child. This is my baby." And, yeah, that's just something she shared with me once. So, I don't want to bore everybody with all the minor experiences, so I'm just gonna tell the ones that I believe had a play in what I'm where I am today. So one of my youngest memories, I was about 5 years old. I was sitting in my living room, and I closed my eyes, and I just imagined what it would be like to go out into space, and what it would be like to, how do I explain this? Yeah, what it would be like to go out beyond Earth into space. And it was if I zoomed out and I just started going, and then bam, it was like all of a sudden I hit a brick wall. Like that's literally how I would describe it for the rest of my life, was hitting a brick wall. It was like I wasn't allowed to go any further. And I remember this happening a few times throughout my younger childhood. Let's see. Before my life changed in my older years, I would tell people that story, that memory of me doing that. I had a typical childhood though. Okay, so about first grade, we were in line at school in front of our classroom, on the outside of the classroom, and I was second in line, and there was a little girl in front of me. She had long dark hair and pigtails, I believe, and she was wearing these jean overalls. And there was a boy standing behind me, and I remember him starting to tease this little girl, saying that she wore those overalls yesterday. Like, haha, you wore the same outfit you did before. And I don't know what inspired me to do this, but I just turned around and I tell this little boy, look, I have spent the night with this little girl. I have been to her house. I have seen that she has two pairs of the same overalls. Like, leave her alone. Because that's what she was saying. She was telling the little boy, no, I'm not. Like, I have two pairs of these. And he was just, wouldn't stop making fun of her. And so I just turned around and was like, hey, look, like, I'm going to stand here and be, like, I don't know. It felt wrong. And I wanted it to stop. And I understand that I lied, but I think my heart was in the right place. Anyways, let's see. That memory always stuck with me. So let's jump to, let's see, 2001. I was in fourth grade, and I remember somebody coming in and telling the teacher something, and then all of a sudden my teacher grabs the TV, one of the old school ones. I mean, the big cart with the big TV on it, and then the VCR on the shelf underneath it. Like, it was one of those Bofos. And she starts showing us the Twin Towers, and I didn't understand any of it. And when I go home that night, I hear my parents talking about it, and it's just, I heard what they were saying, but it didn't hit me like how bad it was. And then the next day I go to school, and the school calls everybody in the gym, every student, every teacher, everybody. And we're all watching something about the Twin Towers, like on a big projector or something, on a big TV. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I just start crying, like really crying, like snot running out my nose and stuff. And the teacher, she asked one of the other girls to take me to the bathroom so I can compose myself. And I go into the bathroom and I sit into the stall, and the little girl's like, "Did you know somebody that was in there in the towers?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "So why are you so upset?" And I remember thinking to myself, like, how could you not be? Like, like, I'm about to start tearing up thinking about it. Like, all those people who lost their lives at one moment, like, that is devastating. And I can't tell you how many people were in the gym, or if anybody else there knew somebody that was in the towers or not. But I can tell you that I was the only one that had to be escorted out of the gym for my emotional reaction. I do know that. And see, my whole life, those always seemed like little experiences, just like, oh, that happened. But now, the way my mind works, it was, yeah, anyways. So, let's see. Around 7th grade, I started, like, just not caring to go to school. Most people don't like Mondays. I didn't like Wednesdays. Every Wednesday I would miss. And I would always, sometimes, well, not always, I would sometimes fake being sick in order to get out of going to school. And in Missouri, you get 3 absences, and then you have to have a doctor's note. So every time I'd fake sick, my mom would have to take me to the doctor just to get that note. And I always thought it was weird, because after I would, after I would say I was sick and fake it, the next day I would always get sick. I'm not talking like sick. I mean like a sore throat or a cough, or just drowsy, not feeling good. Like, it would always affect me the next day. And that memory always stuck with me. And all these memories I'm telling you, eventually the people that were around at the time, they can corroborate. They're going to be able to verify all of this, if they want to. I wanted to say that because I don't want people to think that I'm lying or making stuff up. Like, I'm telling you my raw, honest, raw. This is my story. Okay. Let's see. Let's jump to 16. My parents ended up getting divorced. I don't know if this is notable, but actually before that, I remember when my cousin Josh, we'd be in the backyard playing in elementary school times, and he was a little bit older than me, though. He was probably middle school, and we were having races from one end of the yard to the other, and I remember him running towards me, and his face shifted. His face structure changed as he was running. I feel like his face shifted into one of my other cousins, but I can't exactly remember. So I don't want to state that as a fact, because all I know is his face shifted. He didn't look like the same person. Okay. So let's jump to 2007. The beginning of my sophomore year, I dropped out of school after my parents separated. Besides the basic math and reading, I never really retained what I learned in school. I would say I learned more from the people and the experiences than I did the curriculum. I don't know. I didn't think that I could. It's not that I thought I couldn't do it, or it was a waste of time, or I didn't want to, or I had problems in school. It just wasn't for me. But In 2008, there would be this program started up that would help people who dropped out before they were supposed to graduate. It would help them get their stuff done in time so they could still get their diploma and walk across the stage with my class. Now, this only took me 3 weeks. Yeah, I did 3 years of high school in 3 weeks, and I had to just sit back and wait for 2010 to come for my class to walk across the stage so I could walk across and get my diploma with them. I know some people are going to hear that and be like, oh, well, you're uneducated, or that's cheating, you didn't really do the work. But as my story progresses, I hope you see the power that comes with not retaining secondhand information. I mean, to absorb it and hear it, yeah, but to attach it to yourself and make it your truth, apparently that's never been me, ever. And that's evident now, looking back at my past. Anyways, let's see, where was I at? By 17, I lived with my cousin. I worked 2 jobs. That's when I met Alex. I'm sorry for all the long pauses, guys. Shortly after we were, actually together and steady, I told him, all I've ever wanted... Oh, I forgot that part. Oh, see, I didn't want to end up having to do this, but I do have to jump backwards a little bit. So in middle school days, all I ever wanted was, my own family. My own... people to love me unconditionally, and for me to love them unconditionally. Just people to have by your side, on your back, by your side. And I would lay in bed at night and I would think about the names that I would want to name my kids. And I would write different ones down, and I'd stick it on my ceiling above my bed. And that memory always stuck with me also. But anyways, let's jump to meeting Alex. Shortly after we got steady, I told him, look, I want a family. I want a family life. And the things that, are from your past don't really line up with the type of family I want to have. So, I need you. I'm not wasting my time. I'm not dating just for fun. Do you want to start a life and a family with me or not? And he said, yeah. He said, I choose you. We'll try this. We'll do it. And I was working... One job was I was working at a grocery store. I was a cashier, and then I got promoted to stocking. And then from then on, I do none of that matters. That's why my words are getting blah, blah, blah. My tongue's not moving, because that part don't matter. My other job, I was working to get my CNA license, and I started feeling sick in the mornings and stuff, and I missed a couple of the classes. And the morning I found out I was pregnant, they actually let me go. I don't know why I said all that part. Anyways, so my daughter was born middle of January 2012. And we were together. And then we had a son who was actually born on my birthday. So me and my son share a birthday. He was born 2013. And then shortly after that, he was a couple months old, me and their father split. Let's see. I spent the next years stuck in my life trying to get Alex to come home. He did things that didn't align with the family I wanted, so we separated. I want to explain that further, but I don't want to put his business out there, and I don't want... Yeah, that's not my place. Things happened, we split. It was kind of mutual, but more so me walking out, leaving because of his actions. But not long after, I realized, my family, where's my family? It's broken, and all I focused on was getting him back. Looking back now, I can see that my life was literally paused. I sat in a room with my kids, and I thought, did nothing for my future myself, nothing to progress my life in any direction, it was... Yeah. And then I remember while we were separated, we had another child. He was born May 2016, my son. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So when he was around May 2017, I don't know what started this or what made me do it or how it happened, but I just remember laying there crying. And I cried my heart out over Alex. I mean, like, my heart literally ached. I felt it in my heart, the pain. And I cried, and I would say that I released him. That's how I described it back then, before all this started. When I was still the old Jessica, I released him. And I let go of the idea of us ever being together. And that's not what was going through my mind when I did it. When I did it, it was just thinking of him and just the sadness, of not having him here. That's what I felt. That's what I thought in those moments. But afterwards, I looked back at it, and that's what I referred to it as I released him. Yeah. I didn't write that one down. That one just came back to memory. So I gotta find my place again. So in May, oh wait. So in 2017, me and my kids landed in a woman's abuse shelter to protect my kids. Not from Alex. Not from Alex. He'd never, ever, ever would ever do something hurt his kids, but or me. I met Mike. I met a man named Mike, and I had the money and he had the connections, so we moved in with each other. We liked each other, so we got a place. We ended up losing that place the beginning of 2018. I had nowhere to go, and so my kids ended up in a kids' homeless shelter while I was on the streets. In the beginning of this time, I was staying in a storage unit. I would go there to sleep, like every other night or so, or something like that. Like, that's where I would go. That was my base. And this is when my story officially begins. This is the point of no return. So in around May 2018, I can't say May 2018. I went back through the months and the years, and I remember at one point pinning it down to May 2018, but sitting here telling you now, I'm not going to pin it down to May. I'm going to say in 2018. One night I was out behind the storage units, behind the gates, and I had two options. I could either go left or I can go right. Going left was risking getting caught by the security guard, and going right was risking getting caught by the cameras. And in that moment, I realized that I had lost everything in my life, and my life had come down to one decision, like, go left or go right. And I mean, considering all I ever wanted was a family and my kids, and how when that didn't happen, it broke me, and just, I didn't have no one. My mom wasn't around, my dad wasn't around, I had no relatives, I had no friends, like, I wasn't a very social person. I had, my few people I hung out with, but, by the time I was at that stage in my life, I had nobody. And so, it wasn't even a decision to do this, it was spontaneous. I was sitting there like, do I go left or do I go right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I can't decide. Like, why can't I make a decision? And I look up to the stars, and I'm crying, and I'm just begging for help. I mean, just tell me what to do, tell me which way to go, like, please help me. And like I said, there was no conscious thought to do this at all. And I've never been religious. I've only went to church once in my life. I've never prayed. I didn't even know if there was a God or if I believed in one. I'd had no signs up until that point in my life that there was anything else out there. Well, there was one sign. I'll have to double back on that one, actually. I forgot. But yeah, so I looked across from me was a tree, a tall tree, and like I'm looking at the stars and I'm crying and I'm praying, like asking, not praying, I'm asking for help. And this tree catches my eye and I start to follow it down to the roots, like down the trunk to the bottom. And I have this thought in my head, oh my God, the movie Avatar was right. Everything is connected. Like the movie with the blue people. And like I got really dizzy and felt faint, like I was going to pass out. And I kind of stumbled backwards and I put my hand on the building and I can't remember if I hit my knees or not. I don't think I did, but and it's kind of like when you stand up too fast, I guess, but it was more intense. And honestly, I cannot recall the moments that happened after, right after. I can't tell you which direction I went after I did this. All I know is that I'm not still standing in that spot, so at some point I had to just pick a direction and go, or walk away, or move forward. And I described it as, in that moment, death made absolute sense. Like, in order for us to evolve as humans into whatever it is we're supposed to become, there has to be the process of life and death. I would later make that make more sense. But like that's the only way I could describe it as. There was no fear. There was no fear. In the future, in my choices, in what am I going to do, where am I going to go, how am I going to get my kids, like it was just bliss. It was flowing. It was just moving from one moment to the next without stress or worry. It was as if my soul knew everything would be okay. Everything is going to work out. But in my mind, there was no conscious decision to change my thinking. I described it as being the best version of myself possible. There was this different connection between the way I thought, the things I spoke, and the things that I thought and I spoke. You know, I held myself to it in the physical. Like I would think it, I would say it, and I would hold myself to it. Like there was no room for anything that was not truth in my life. And people responded to me different. I thought different. I spoke different. Like normally Alex would describe it as I would dance around what I was trying to say because I would say 50 different sentences just to say one sentence. But that was gone too. Like it was just like direct, and no one could argue with anything I said because it was my truth. It was the truth. And it wasn't just my opinion or anything. It was, I don't know. I was different. I was different. And it was time for me to go visit my kids for the first time in the shelter. And as I walk out the door to go start walking to go see them, I talk myself out of it. I'm too scared. Like, I would rather protect my feelings and not go than to give them the satisfaction of seeing me, if that makes sense. And as I start turning away to go back home, I hear somebody yell my name, and I turn around, and it's my friend Zach. I went to high school with him, Zach Schwartz. And me and Zach are talking, and this is the first connection I have had since that happened, where he had recently done DMT, okay, and mind you, he was normal when I knew him, but now he was more expanded. I remember he described to me about the light in the dark. He said that when he was on this trip, he was shown that the dark won, but the light was coming back to fix it. They came back to change it. And the concept of light and dark just like stuck. Like it just made so much sense. And I connected with this dude on another level. Like we were both high vibrational at that time. But anyways, we're walking and talking. And all of a sudden I look up and we're standing in front of the shelter. And I just start crying because that man, that blessed angel, showed up at the right moment to take me to my kids. And from then on, it was never an issue to go see them again. And Zach will always have a special place in my heart for that. Like, when we were around each other, when we spoke, like, he was different like me. I can't describe it. But anyways, fast forward about a month or two, and I'm walking down the side of the road at night, and my cousin, Kayla, pulls up on me. And she's like, hop in, we'll give you a ride. Where are you going? And I tell her what had happened with my apartment and the shelter and Mike, and she got mad at me. She's like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call me? Da, 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 da. She's like, you're coming to stay with me. We're going to get your kids tomorrow. That's it. Like, I didn't even have a say. And she drove me to her house. It was out of town, still in Kansas, on the edge of Kansas. But the next day, yeah, I got somebody to take me to go get my kids from the shelter. And I took them to my cousin's house. And I'm there for like a week or so. And then we go to visit my mom for 4th of July in Lansing, Kansas. A few days passed, and I call my cousin, like, hey, we're going to be coming home soon. And she's like, well, you can't come back. We don't want you back. So now I'm stuck in Lansing with my mom and her boyfriend and my youngest sister with me and my 3 kids. And that's when it faded away. That new way of thinking, feeling, it kind of slowly faded to the back, to where one day I woke up and I was just like, wow, like, it was gone. I didn't even know it was leaving. I still got 10 minutes of recording time left on my phone, so yeah, God picked me up and put me in Lansing. That's the way I see it. The way the events happened, it wasn't random. It was where I was supposed to be. I didn't realize it at the time. But, there's a few things that I'd like to share about this time before I go any further. One of them popped up in my head, but then it went away. So, but I'm not going to sit here and make you stare at the sky while I just sit here in silence and try to remember. So we're going to jump forward to, oh yeah, no, I remember. Sorry. So, I don't know what caused me to do this. I've never meditated or never did anything spiritual ever before, and I just feel like I'm gonna lay down and meditate. I'm gonna try to meditate. And so I go to SoundCloud and I find this clip, and I lay down and I meditate to it. When I feel like I fell asleep, but after it was over and I woke up, like, I just knew I went somewhere. Like, I can't tell you how, why, where, whatever. There's just some strong feeling in me that I went somewhere. And this song would later come up in my life, so this is a notable thing to remember. Like, that song plays a part. But anyways, we're going to jump to, not long after I got there, we moved to Leavenworth, which is a town right next to Lansing. They're basically the same town. And I start working at a Subway. We didn't have a car, so I walked an hour and a half every day, 6 days a week, for like a little over a year, until I got my car. I quickly got promoted to a manager, like within like 4 or 5 months, and I managed the Lansing Subway. I worked with Brian. He was the owner of the Subways in the area. I worked with him for about 5 years. About 3 years into it, though, I'm doing an interview, and I hired this guy. His name is Tom. Thomas Michael. Shout out to Cryon. Cryon, Lee Carroll, who speaks for Cryon of Magnetic Service, he created a book years and years ago, and it was about the spiritual journey somebody went through. And the name of the person in the book was Michael Thomas. Anyways, Thomas Michael. And not long after I met him, we started hanging out. And, after all this faded away, it wasn't like I dove into research or anything. It was here and it was gone. I never looked into it. I never tried to understand what it was, where it came from, where it went. Like, I just moved on with my life. Like, I don't know why. Anyways. So when he came back, all these strange things started happening. It started when I was it was right after the, Stephen Greer had the Disclosure, that documentary he released. And I was telling Tom about it. And I was trying to remember the name of the person, and he's like, oh, Stephen Greer. And for some reason, I just spontaneously start crying, running outside in the back for like 10 minutes. And I came back, he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I've never had anybody that I, knew anything about, anything I talked about. Looking back on it, I think it was, relief that there was somebody there that, I don't know, I can't describe it. Like I said, my life was my work, okay? I didn't sit at home and watch TV. I wasn't on my phone. I hate technology. I was never into it. I don't play games. The only games I ever liked was literally one game, and that was Mario on the Nintendo. That is the only game I like to play. I don't read. I've never done anything intentional to take in information. And I know that sounds crazy, but I never had hobbies. When people would ask me what I like to do growing up, organize and clean shit. That was me. That was my identity. I found joy in just being alone, cleaning, organizing. And if it wasn't that, I was doing something else. Making experiences. I wasn't taking in secondhand information. I spent my life just experiencing, I guess you could say. And so that disclosure was the kickoff, and crying with Tom like that was a kickoff. And then the whole time, I just kept crying that I wanted my cornfield, because I just wanted time to sit with myself and figure this shit out, figure out what was in my head. And when I started hanging out with Tom, his house was a cornfield. It was a cornfield. My mind was able to drop everything else and open up and expand in different ways. And I was coming to all these revelations. There was this one time I was making a sandwich on the line, and I just realized, okay, if a little boy opens up a door for somebody when he's younger, and everybody around him claps and praises him for it, right? Chances are, next to the opportunity he gets, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to open up that door again. He's going to look behind him, and he's going to wait for that praise. And once it happens a few times, then that creates a habit. That creates, for the rest of his life, he's always going to open up that door, because he's always going to be looking for that praise behind him. Things like that curve people's behavior. It curves their choices. And what curves our choices is the response we get from the people around us. If people are angry with the things we do, we tend to stop doing them. Like when a parent would spank a kid, the kid would feel that, and the kid would not do it again because they don't want to feel that pain or that hurt. But if you give somebody praise and applause for even the most mundane things, it's gonna cause something in them to want to do that thing again. It's never going to be a second thought to do that thing. I got to open up this door for this old lady again. No, it's going to be bam, they're just going to do it. And so people curve their behaviors based on the responses they get from other people, okay? And that just, instantly hit me. And I would speak about things. Tom grew up listening to an old radio show. I can't remember the name of it. But he would have all these strange people and UFOs and his spiritual, and he was really popular back in the 80s and 90s. People would call in and talk to him and tell him their experiences and thoughts. And if anybody knows what it is, put it in the comments below. But so he had all this knowledge of all these things, of all these people saying all this stuff. And I remember when I would explain my understandings and the way I saw shit, he would always have somebody to compare it to. He'd always be like, oh, that sounds like this person when they said this, and that sounds like that person when they said this. And I would just look at him like, oh, I don't even know who that person is. Like, I don't know. I didn't know that, like, that's weird. I remember one night I was laying in bed, and he just looked at me. He was like, who are you? Like, people would later say that to me again over and over. They'd look at me and be like, who the fuck are you? And I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I am. But, where are we at? I only got 2 minutes left, 1 minute. So, that's my backstory. That's the basis of where I led to and where I landed. I'm going to keep recording. I know it's not I know these are not the videos that are going to cause people to start paying attention. I'm aware of that. And I'm sorry I'm not good with audio and video, and I can't make this thing all fancy to catch people's eyes. Or my channel will grow and change and evolve the longer I do this. A reader I recently found, he's been posting for about a year, and it took a few months, and it just took one video, to catch people's eye. That brought him all these other ears to hear him. So, yeah, this is the beginning of the journey, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting with me. Shout out to Shay. Yeah. And I don't know how to sign off, so I'm just going to say bye. Thanks, guys.